Would be better.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Gimel, Sakas Nadarim. So yesterday we discussed. And I'm going to be interrupted when Mayor walks in. But yesterday we discussed the Mishnah. It mentions kinui, which are not certain nicknames, but I guess equivalent terms, synonyms of lashon of neder, which creates another nadarim. So we said that, and then when the Mishnah gave examples, it gave examples of yados. Right, yados are not full expressions; they're sort of implications, and it gave examples of these implications that work and make a neder chal, to make something usher to a person. Now, so we had a whole question. Oh, so the Mishnah should have said yados, right? The Mishnah, it was chasri mechsa, is missing a part. And it should have said something. So therefore, so that was, and then we said, okay, but why to start with the last one? There was 4 of them, and then you start off giving the. So he said, okay. So we ended up saying lav dafka. Sometimes gives examples of the first item, the list of from the first item. Sometimes gives examples of the second item. Fine. So that's where we left off. We're on 2 lines from the top, or 3 lines. For the top of Gimel and Aleph, the e-boy is same. All right, Baruch Atah. And the way we go, Viva is same, or I can give you another reason. Yada. So now, in terms of the order, start off saying kinui, right? The synonyms, and then it said yados, and then it gave example of yados. Well, we start with the second one. So Viva is same. Yados. Midrasha, since the that which we learn now, yados, is from a drasha. So mefarish lahu bereisha. So therefore, we explain it first because it's more chaviv. Since it's more chaviv, it's more dear. Since the rule of yados, that it affects a neder, since that it works, it comes from a drasha. So therefore, listen, first it's more chaviv. I believe the chadim bereisha. If that's so, the Gemara says, okay, if that's the case, it's right. So chashav is right. So chaviv, you enjoy it. So why don't you list it first thing in the Mishnah? Why start with kinui? So miftach pasach bekinui in the raisa bereisha. No, first we have to go ahead and we list the kinui work, which is the raisa from the reisha. But first yadas, that's the midrash, and then we explain yadas and come from a drasha. So the Gemara says, so this works out according to the opinion who holds that kinui. When we get into the whole mafolias later on, that's lashon nachrim. In other words, it's names. Basically, it's words in other languages that basically mean a neder or a vow, right? And therefore, that's how it works. And therefore, a vow, right? Basically, a neder, when it says neder, it's included also those midoraisa. But rather, if it's the special lashon, special words that the Chazal came up with, says you can also use this term and it'll make a neder. And since the Chachamim came up with that, that's not learned from the Torah. That's not deraisa. So you can't say that kinui is deraisa. Michael, maybe we're going to say that. So Gemara says, back up a second. Miktan yados, right? Did our Mishnah say yados? Right? We had the whole thing. We said chasur mechsa, right? Did our Mishnah say it? Right? We said, okay, put it in. It says kinui then yados. So miktan yados. Didn't we say it was chasur mechsa? Didn't we say it was missing the words yados from Mishnah? We have to go ahead and put it in. So Aktiv Nami, Vitani. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it in, but put it in first. Don't put it in kol kinu nadarim kanadarim, and then the yados yados. Rather say, write it this way: kol yados nadarim kanadarim, kol kinu nadarim nadarim. Ve'elein yados ha'ivin chaverim. Ve'elein kinu, right? And therefore, then it goes in proper order, right? When we insert the chasur mechsara, we insert yados. Don't insert it after kinu. Insert it first, and therefore everything goes in order. Right, and this is kinui, which is later on. Kainem, kaines, fine. Period. So those are the examples which are in the Mishnah later on in Daf Yud. The yados. So now let's get the yados. So where is the source of yados? Where do we see that not a full term, a yad, or yad is a handle, right? That works to go ahead and make a neder chal. So it says ki ish, not ki ish. It says ish ki yifla. Lindor yaflia lindor neder nazir lazir lashem. When a person pronounces a vow or in the zeros to Hashem, all right. So a lot of double lashonos there. Lindor neder nazir lahazir lashem. Betanya, we learn in the Brisa nazir lahazir. So why does it say nazir lahazir? La'asais kinui in the zeros to teach you that an alternative term For Naziris, it's just like Naziris. The Yadas, Naziris, Naziris. So the Ran actually takes out the first line we just did. It was a Sunsiting Mar, but we learned from over here, Nazir Lahazir, to teach us that Yadas Naziris is like Naziris. So only but Naziris, I only know because it says Nazir Lahazir, we're talking about Naziris. But Nadarim and Ayin, where do we know from Nadarim? The Tamalayimar, therefore it says Ish ki afliya lindor neder Nazir Lahazir Hashem. So therefore the pasuk says, so it says both Nadarim and Naziris. So Makish, Naziris, and Nadarim. So therefore we make a hackish, make a comparison between Naziris and Nadarim. But Nadarim and Naziris, and we also learn it back from Nadarim, from vows to Naziris. Ma Naziris, Asaba Yadais, Naziris can Naziris, just like by Naziris, which you just learned, the double lashon teaches us that a yad includes that even a partial term does make a Naziris chal. So to by Nadarim, we also make a half sentence, right? An implication, a yad of Neder Nadarim. And then what do we learn back? And just by Nadarim, right? There's a couple violations that apply to a Nadarim. A person violates his words, right? He says he's going to do something or not do something, and he violates that. So he has violated the Isser of Bal Yachel. And also, a person can go ahead and violate another way, Bal Ta'achir, right? To delay, right? Person only has a certain period of time to fulfill his vow, right? He says it's going to be something to the base of Mikdash or whatever it is. So he has a certain amount of time. If he delays it for years, he is violated. Do not delay. We'll get to my focus later on as to what the what the length is about Bal Ta'achir. So just like Bal Ta'achir and Bal Yachel apply by Nadarim, Naziros, so to by Naziros, Iber Bal Yachel, Bal Ta'achir. A person can violate Bal Yachel, Bal Ta'achir, and we're going to teach this later on. So too by Naziros. Also, Manadar Ma'av Meifir Nidre Bito, Ubal Meifir Nidre Isha. And just like when it comes to Nadarim, my father can go ahead and nullify his daughter's Nadarim because she's in his household. And also a husband can go ahead and nullify his wife's Nadarim if it affects Naziros. So to Naziros, Ha'av Meifir Naziros Bito, Ubal Meifir Naziros Isha. So when it comes to Naziros, a father can nullify if he hears his daughter accept upon herself a Naziros. So to a husband, go ahead and nullify if he hears his wife, go ahead and make a Naziros. So Laura points out, Maishno, Gabi Naziros, Dechsid. So what was the reason why? Where did we learn Yados from? So Maishno Gabi Naziros, Dechsid. Pasuk says Nazir Lahazir.
Right, so they learn Kinuyim from that same drasha, don't they?
No, so they don't. The Ran actually takes that out.
And he does take that
yeah,
out.
the Ran over there. We look Haki Arsin Lasa. Yados Naziros, Naziros, the second wide line.
They were talking about is Midrasha Ati.
Yeah, so this is the drasha of Yados because by Nadarim, by Naziros, that's where it's learned out from, and it's a drasha, it's a hakesha. We learn it's a hakesh from Nadarim from Naziros. So therefore, the Yados by Nadarim is learned out from a drasha.
But it's still a Doraisa, isn't that?
But it's a hakesh. It's learned out from a drasha. It's not Midrabanan, right? It's Chamadoraisa from a hekesh, but it's learned through the Gilmida, right? Through the ways that Chazal.
You said that Kinuyim are Doraisa and the Yados are from Midrash.
Right. So Kinui, right? We learned from we had yesterday. It says Kol Neder Kol comes to include Kinui, right?
All right.
So from the pasuk. So over here, it's not learned from the pasuk on the Darim. It's actually learned from the pasuk of Naziros. But the Gemara is actually going to a little bit question it now. Right? By the pasuk also said like a double lashon by lindor neder, double lashon. You said double lashon teaches you yados by naziros, and we learn nadarim from there. So why don't you use the double lashon from nadarim and just learn yados from there? And therefore, it's basically from the pasuk.
Yep.
And then why do you need a hakish? See, because the neder lindor kidachsiv nazir lahazir. If it said it the same way, neder lindor, like it says nazir lahazir, like you said, you would not need a hekesh. But however, lindor neder, but it says the opposite order, right? Lindor neder, right? So lindor neder, which is the more normal way, right? So therefore, the Torah is just using a language that people speak. And therefore, there's no extra wordage there to darshan from. And therefore, since it's lashon b'nei adam, so therefore you can't learn a halacha from there. So the Gemara says, okay, this works well according to this machlekes, according to the opinion who holds that whether the Torah sometimes is medaber b'lashon b'nei adam, and therefore you can't go ahead and learn out extra drasha. Elaman the less lay divrei Torah b'lashon b'nei adam. But however, according to the opinion who holds that the Torah does not speak like man, and therefore you can darshan every word. Sahai lindor neder my abile. So there, that's the case. What do you do with the double lashon lindor neder? So darish lay laasas yados nedarim kinedarim enachinami. We learn now, according to this teretz, that yados nedarim kinedarim. Makish Naziris Nadarim, and therefore, so that halacha by Yadas is actually the source is Nadir, right? Is Nadarim, and we learn out Naziris from Nadarim. So if that's the case, Nazir Lahazir, so he says Makish Nadarim Nadarim. So Nazir Lahazir Darishlei. So what do we learn from there? So Malamed, right? So we turn over there. We learn over there Shahan Nazirus Chal Al Nazirus. That if a person is currently a Nazir, and he is makabel upon himself Nazirus. So even though he's already a Nazir, so then he will have a consecutive Nazirus. It's chal al Nazirus. You might think that maybe a person is a Nazir and he's makabel Nazirus, is not chal because he's already a Nazir. So he says he's day 15, let's say a 30-day Nazirus, and he's makabel. So that after we don't start now, we know it's not a total of 45 days, it's going to be a total of 60 days. It's going to be chal right afterwards. So Nazirus is chal Nazirus is learned from the pasuk of Nazir Hazir. And by the way, Ozzy, to back up, just to back up the kasha, the easiest pasha to answer is that even if it's in the order of the drasha versus the pasuk, you can just say, well, that which we inserted yados first and not second, and therefore we explain it first, and therefore the whole kasha doesn't even start. Fine. Okay, according to the other opinion, who says the lashon b'nei adam, and therefore Nadar is learned from Nazirus. So, and therefore the pasuk of Nazirus is taught is teaching yados. So, Nazirus Nazirus, and therefore the drasha of yados is used to teach us about yados and Nazirus. It's just like Nazirus. So, Nazirus chal and Nazirus minale. How does he know? Then Nazirus is chal and Nazirus, the halach we just did. So Heinicha, once again, Heinichi, Sphirle, Command Nazirus, chal and Nazirus. So it works well when the opinion holds that if one is already currently a Nazir and he says, okay, I'm a kabbalah about myself, Nazirus, then it doesn't work because you're already Nazir. You can't do that. Eli, Sphirle, Command Nazirus, chal and Nazirus. However, if he holds that Nazirus is chal al Nazirus, Minole. So where does he know that from? So name a kra. Lizor, right? Nazir Lizor, my Lahazir. Why say Lahazir? Shmamino Tarti learned from both drashas. One drasha that Yados Nazirus can Nazirus, and the other drasha is that Nazirus is Chal and Nazirus. And B'ma'arava and Yisrael Amri East Tana the Mapik Le Yados mean leader and nether. They're those tonight, those who learn out the Yados from the pasuk of leader and nether. These Tana the Mapik Le mean. There's a separate pasuk complete without these drashas of Kol Yaitzi Mipiv Yaseh, pasuk in Bamidbar, right? And therefore, we learn out from there the Yados, that is the source of Yados. Fine. Omar Amar, smack in the middle of Gimel Amud Beis. Omar Amar, Uman Nadarim Oiver B'Bal Yachel. We said earlier, by Nadarim, when one violates Bal Yachel for violating his word. Bal Tacher. So to over here by a case of Nazirus. So Bishlam Bal Yachel the Nadar Nishkachasa. Okay, I know a person can go ahead and violate his words, right? The Nadar Nishkachasa could go into Amar Kikar Za'Eichel. He says, right, this will be eaten, right? Some have a change lashon here, right? And then he goes ahead and he doesn't eat it. So he is devoted, right? He has desecrated his words. He has violated his words. He said he was going, this piece will be eaten by me, and he didn't eat this piece, right? So he violated. The Nazirus. How does one violate Bayachel when it comes to Nazirus? Why? What's the problem? Let's see. A person says, I'm a Nazir. Havile Nazir. Therefore, he's a Nazir. So now he goes ahead and he's achal. Then let's say he goes ahead and eats grapes or something, right? That he's prohibited from, or he prohibited from wine and then becoming tamei. So he goes ahead and eats grapes. What is he in violation of? Achal, right? He's violated by yochel. You can't go ahead and eat the grape products or shasa, or if he drinks wine, he does it. Right? You're not allowed to drink as a nazir. So he hasn't violated right? Where does the Yisr of Bal Yachel come in, right? He's violated his Nazirus, but that's a separate Yisr of Nazirus. So where does he see is violated by Yachel? So to give him 2 lavim, right? He gives 2 lavim. In such a case, he has violated 2 lavim in this case. He's violated the nader and Bal Yishta or Bal Yachel.
That we call it in Hebrew mishak milim. The akish, like we said, it's the wording that really makes you obligated.
Right. So over here, right. So with that, he's actually obligated too, even though it's the same Misa, right? So a person makes right Nazirus, he violates both. So even for Nazirus, you could ever really, according to this, right? Anytime a person violates his Nazirus, and Nazirus is a form of Nadarim, and therefore, right, like he would violate both Bal Yachel and also Bal Yachel. Okay, so that was the case of Bal Yachel. So Baal Tacher, the Nazirus, Heichem Mishkachasla. How do you find a case of a person violating? We said by in that, a person says, I'm going to go ahead and give the $1,000 to charity, and then he goes ahead and he waits too long. So he's violated, do not delay. He's delayed it too much. So where do we see that a person can violate, do not delay when it comes to Nazirus? So what's the case there? So Heichem Mishkachasla. I think it says over there they don't eat grapes. Yeah.
I'm saying he doesn't quote it. I'm saying right.
Yeah. So right, that pasuk over there. Yeah.
By Nazirus.
By Nazirus.
No,
by Nazirus. Right. Yeah. So the Gemara says, Heichem Mishkachasla. So Kavan the Omar. So it says, Kavan the Omar Haredi Nazir, Havili Nazir. I understand. Do not delay. So where does do not delay come by Nazirus? If he says, I'm a Nazirus, starts, I'm going to be a Nazir, it starts right away. Achal, and therefore, if he goes out and eats, so come by Yochel. He's violated by Yochel. He's not violated, do not delay. He becomes, because he said, Haredi Nazir. And if he says, Nazir, he says, okay, when I want to be a Nazir, I'll be a Nazir, right? So the Amar Ksherza, like about Tach, he says, when I want to, I didn't want to yet. So I didn't want, right. So what is that? So Amar Rabba, Kigain, the Amar, La'iftar min Eilam ad Sheya Nazir. I will not leave this world until I fulfill a Nazirus, right? A minimum of 30-day Nazirus. Now, what's about Tach here? To mean Hayishata Havile Nazir. Now, he hasn't been makabel upon himself. He didn't say Haredi Nazir. He says, I'm not going to leave this world until I do a full 30-day, at least a 30-day Nazirus. Okay. So he's still, so every second he's not in the Kabbal's Nazirus, immediately he is violated. Do not delay. Because why? The guy might die and then he hasn't violated. So therefore, he's an obligation for him to be makabel right away. But he hasn't done it yet. So now he's violated Bal Tacher. Like one who says to his wife, guy gives his wife a get. This is your get a moment before I die. In other words, that you'll be a divorcee. You'll not be an amana. Asura, asura lechol b'truma. Miyad. She's asked her to go ahead and eat truma right away because any moment he could die, and therefore, if she dies, she's divorced and she can no longer eat truma. Alma. Right, I'm reading called Shaz B'Shayta till nice. Perhaps they won't die. So in this case, Alter Havi Nazir, he should be a Nazir immediately. And Dilma Hashta perhaps from now he will go ahead and die. All right, we'll stop here. It's Hashem. Sunday 6:40.
Want to do later because of